Good afternoon, Massimo. So you may have read the email review regarding this test ski, but I'm going to show you some things visually. Essentially what the Deep V allows the designer or us to do is isolate longitudinal flex from torsional rigidity. Typically, when you increase torsional rigidity across a broad plane, it increases longitudinal flex. So as you try to create all mountain high-performing skis, you run into that particular problem. So as a designer, we have this ability to cut the flex pattern in by this V as opposed to tapering it down in this direction. And of course, this is the massive section. This is the section that we massively rely on for high torsional strength for deep carbs and hard performance on ice and such. So when you look at it, you've got a flex in the tail, but because it's torsion box wrapped about 4 times with carbon, it has an amazing amount of torsional rigidity in this back section. Also underfoot, it's heavily reinforced. It's torsion box, or it's capped with massive reinforcements that are dropping over the 30-degree cap section up to about here, and that's creating an immense amount of torsional strength. Also, that reinforcement is done with fiberglass, the underfoot section reinforcement. That's because for screw retention, carbon has very low screw retention. You break out the fibers, but fiberglass, which is directly underneath the carbon in this section, has high screw retention. So essentially what we've got in regards to the ski is an amazingly powerful underfoot, undercarriage section for hard, deep carving, super fast on ice and such, and then we have a nice, really front end which has some great characteristics for all-mountain performance, and it's slightly rockered as well. Being that it's a super light ski, we put the DNFit binding on it, and we've drilled out sections, and also we've lost mass back here. We have extremely low swing weights. And the swing weight is what allows you to drive the ski into kind of a tighter turn profile. Also, what's really interesting about the ski, actually important from the structural side, is especially in the saddle, you'll see a lot, there's a huge potential for load point fracturing and then ultimately breakage in this section. So in this saddle, we've put a tremendous amount of reinforcement because this will hit a mass, and at that load point, of course, as I said, that's a massive point for fracturing. Also, our underfoot reinforcement, as we talked about before, is staggered. We're not using massive sheets, okay, which again, as the flex comes in and hits a broad line, we snap. Of course, that's done in this section and also at the tip joint section, and we've done some reinforcement underneath. A lot of companies are following our lead. They're starting to cut their core stock back. The reason being is wood is incredibly lively, and in a rockered section of a ski, you don't want that liveliness because that creates flap. So we're cutting our core section back, and we're filling out more with carbon, which is quieter, dampener, which is a damper sensation. So you'll notice in the test review on the actual videos, there's very little of this. It's just that, whereas you get typical companies, they're running their core stock up and you get a lot of this. So we know a few companies that are actually starting to pull core stock back and do fill work. Also, we've done lacing up in here. So where we have termination on the edge, we've run 200-pound tests in a zigzag configuration, and that's a retention point. We've been doing that for a couple of years, and now we're seeing other companies follow suit here as well. What else about the ski? Watch the video, hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the angle, and the reason why the angle is important is that's how we drape the fiberglass over. In vacuum, it's very difficult to straight 90s. It's not that the bag won't back over, it's that it needs a transition point. Those transition points tend to bunch up. So when we cut the 45, actually, yeah, 45 on the inside, it allows that beautiful undulation of the glass fabric. taking a set of skis over some really undulated terrain. We're not really looking for good technique, obviously. We're just trying to jam it into bumps, moguls. Most importantly, seeing how fast it reacts and how I can recover the ski back into underfoot traction, underfoot edging, and then dropping it back into some slide zones. Also looking at how the hole, we do it for two reasons. One is to reduce swing weight, and the second is to allow a lot of the crud to go through the tip, therefore having or getting less deflection from the snow on the tip section. Also, if the tip gets buried in some really tough terrain, it slivers out a lot easier with that less mass. Now taking this down to a more piece-on-piece situation, I'm going to delegate more of the outside edge pressure, and then I'm going to switch it in, try to get it to more 50-50 and see how the ski turns, what kind of radiuses we can generate short-term to long-term, and how fast the ski transitions edge to edge. Here, just looking for tracking. How is the ski tracking on a straight single leg situation? A lot of my skiing in more technical situations, I'll actually be able to engage one ski, jump off, and then re-engage on the other on the uphill edge. It's been pretty beneficial. But the ski is just really agile. Here we're just going through just more technical, simple turns, just enjoying the ski for what it is, fast on transition. And then here, at this point, we're traveling at a very fast speed. We're able to look at those tips, how really stable they are. They're not chattering at all. So the speed gets up pretty high, and the skis are completely engaging in a very comfortable way, very predictable. Here in slow motion, obviously, you can try to see how that tip is tracking. And I'm trying to force that outside edge and inside edge for recovery purposes, and just to see how the ski reacts and then disengages from the turn. Really nice transitions left side to right side.
Get one of them out and it's a piece of cake. Yeah, the last one. Oh.